Welcome to the Do More podcast, where we share strategies and tips for improving your life in every aspect. Here's your host, John Farling.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have a guest from Ohio. I live in Ohio, so I had to bring someone else from Ohio, Jimmy Domer, and I'm going to let him give us his quick 2-minute speech here. I think we met about a year ago at a mastermind and have stayed in touch since, gone to another event together. Actually, we've done a couple events together. But yeah, go ahead, give us your background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so Jimmy Domer, I'll be 41 this year. Left my W-2 a year ago. Married for 19 years and got 3 kids, and in the real estate space now. That's what I left the W-2 for. So multifamily apartments and soon be a first self-storage facility. So hope to be here. I appreciate the invite. Wish I was in Columbus, but I'm here in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, and I mean, you skipped over a lot, obviously, and we're going to dive into it, but you've scaled pretty quickly here. And I didn't know when we met a year ago so you had just quit your job a year ago when we met.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And you worked there. So give us a background on that. So we're the same age. After school, after that, where'd you go? What'd you do?
Yep. Yeah. So always had kind of that entrepreneurial spirit. Got out of high school, went to Ohio State for a year. School wasn't for me. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Obviously, it's expensive. So came home, worked an excavating job, and then after a little bit there, started my own excavating business and do gas electric services on new homes. Saw all these new homes going up, and like that, just that construction industry, all that stuff. And then that kind of, the economy started turning, and I'm like, well, I'm going to flip houses. So jump in. I completely
So that was what, probably 2008-ish?
Yeah, it was in that 2008, end of 2007. I don't think it had tanked completely because I'm dumb, but not that dumb. But flipped some houses and actually did okay, but I was pretty young still and didn't know all the business side of things. I mean, I started working with QuickBooks and understood what a P&L was, things like that, but just didn't have all the pieces to come together. So in 2009, my wife's family owns a bunch of businesses here locally, and went to work for a countertop shop that was a business that they owned. They had just bought a few years prior. And so, started there in 2009, January 2009. I think I had our first daughter. My second daughter might have been on the way, but and then worked there for 13 years. Really enjoyed it. Learned a ton of, actually business, like how business works, and those pieces I was missing when I was younger. Those kind of came together during that time. So I had some good mentors along the way in that structure. Having multiple businesses, it was a bigger, like the whole conglomerate was a big business, but the countertop shop was relatively small when I started there. I think we had 10-ish employees, and then scaled that thing. At our peak, we had 70. I think when I left, we were down to, after COVID, we lost some employees and kind of scaled some things back. We were doing some Home Depot work, but maybe around 55 employees or so. And so my real estate journey started there. Things were great there. I have no complaints. There's a lot of benefits to a W-2, insurance, 401k, steady paycheck. But at the end of the day, inside, it's that there's that freedom. I had that burning freedom desire, and
Yep.
having limited vacation, having to ask off, and I had a lot of freedom where I was at. I had a lot of autonomy, but still, I was working for somebody else, and
Yep.
so 2016, 17, I was like, there's more to this. I still enjoyed that, like, flipping, and man, if I'd have kept those houses I flipped as rentals, just the equity, not even mention the cash flow, would have been phenomenal. But so I stumbled on Bigger Pockets, which I know a lot of people kind of get started there, and I still recommend it to a lot of people. I think it's a great place to get baseline information. And I'm not saying it's just all elementary. There's definitely some good stuff. It's changed over the years, but
Yep.
great starting spot for just learning about real estate, and listen to podcasts all the time. And then finally was started looking, saved up some money. I'm like, I need to just get my feet wet, and found an empty commercial building in Kent, Ohio, close to Kent University, and which is about 20 minutes north of me here. And I'm like, I can make this. It had a retail space underneath, 4 apartments above. I'm like, and the apartments were in good shape. It was an old auto parts store. I'm like, I can make this into something. And it was on the MLS for like over a year. Made an offer on it, and it got accepted. And I remember the day it got accepted, like the day after, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, and I was so close to trying to, back out of that deal. And I'm like, no, I committed, like I signed the contract, we're going. And, so yeah, got that thing. And,
That was when?
that was in 2017.
Okay. Yeah, that's ballsy for a first. We're
Yeah.
it sounds like we're kind of on the same trajectory around the same time, Bigger Pockets, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's ballsy to your first deal to do commercial, and it's mixed too, it sounds like, right?
Yeah. I like to say, like, yeah, man, I was like, I'm taking action. This is balls out, but it was more just stupidity. um, but it worked out great. Like, I look back now, it's what, 2023, 5 years, 6 years later. And if I could have bought 10 of those, I would have done, like, I'd do it all day long right now. Cause
Yeah.
we did some light rehab to the apartments. We painted cabinets, painted everything, got it fixed up, did some things to the bathrooms. And we had like an open house where we advertised all 4 of them at the same time because it was completely vacant, and we had it rented up. We had more people. We had to turn people away. So I was like, sweet, this all got rented like that. And then the fun starts of managing it, because I managed it on my own.
Right.
But in that process too, a friend of a friend, or a friend, brought a barber in, and he took half the downstairs retail space. So we fixed that up, got him in, and then I think it was roughly a year later, he took the whole down. Like, there's like 15-ish hundred square feet, and took that whole space, and it's been great ever since. So then I
So
started, shortly after, started looking for more.
yeah. So how much did you know about, because it's a mixed use. How much did you know about residential real estate rentals and also commercial rentals before you bought that?
Yeah. So when I was at the countertop shop, we rented a few spaces. So we had an office in Columbus, Dayton, Pittsburgh. So I knew a little bit about how the commercial contracts worked, things like that. So I wasn't completely, lying to that. In residential, when I was flipping those houses, one of the houses we did like a land contract on, and so it's kind of like a rental. We ended up taking that house back eventually, but so I knew a little bit. And actually, during that time, the house that my wife and I first lived in, that we rehabbed, we kept that. So I kind of had a rental prior to this building.
Okay.
It wasn't like this is going to be my business. It was just like,
Yeah.
hey, I really don't want to sell this house.
Right.
It was zoned commercial, and so we kept it and rented it. So I did have a little bit of experience there with that.
But it sounds like your experience is, I mean, obviously a little bit with bigger pockets, but just taking
Oh,
action, doing it, figuring it out along the way.
yes.
Sounds like you do or did a lot of the work yourself too, right? The
Yeah.
repairs and
Yep. Yeah, I did. I did it. I mean, hired out HVAC,
yep,
some of the bigger stuff, but all the little repairs. And it's the blessing. I always say it's the blessing and curse of like knowing how to do that stuff. Cause you're like, if I could call a plumber, it's going to be $120 to fix this, tub spout, or I can just go do it. But,
yep,
now it's like, what's my time worth? What do I want to get involved with? And so
yep,
definitely transitioning out of doing everything myself and having other
yep.
people do it.
Well, I think that's a good point too, because I mean, I started the same way. My first single family rental, I did everything, and it took me 4 or 5 months to get through everything. It was horrible, but I learned a lot, and I also knew what to look for when I went to hire subs out for my next deal.
Absolutely.
Um, it sucked, but you have to grind for a little bit. You learn, but yeah, you took action, you figured things out along the way.
Yep.
So that was 17. Do you remember what kind of money you made from that just monthly?
So I know like right now I think it produces like 50, 55, or 5,800 a month in cash flow. I mean that's gross, but
Gross. Yeah.
but I remember off the top, I mean, I think I was bringing in like 15, 1,800 a month after like everything got settled and whatnot.
Yeah.
Pure cash flow. So
So you saw, basic. We'll call it your first deal,
yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
You started seeing the power of real estate then.
Yes.
What was that? How did that go from 17 to when you quit your job in, I guess, 22, right? So
Yeah.
5 years.
Yep.
What happened after that?
So ended up bought a duplex roughly the following year, maybe a little over a year, and that thing's great. It was so old guy owned it, and his son he passed away. His son took it over, fixed it up, and then but didn't want anything to do with it. Just fixed it up to sell it. So it was like turnkey, and that's actually one of my best rentals now because it's like they had an egress window in the basement. Now it's a 3 bed. It's great, and these are all local, within 20 minutes of where I'm at now. Just
Okay.
I out of convenience and just I guess being easy. That's kind of how it's landed so far, but definitely not opposed to going further, but probably not with duplexes and
Yep.
things like that. But
You need some type of scale
right,
to go further.
right.
Yeah.
So then bought another duplex. Bought a couple duplexes here and there, trickled in. I think when I quit, I had right around 20-ish rentals. Um, so a little
Did that cover the bills?
so a little side note is when I was leaving, I left, and the guy that replaced me didn't work out. So I kind of came back part time for a couple months, which was good. Good for a little bit of closure. It's kind of weird. Side note is after going into an office and having a W-2 for 13 years, I'm sure it's the same for people for 5, 10 years, and then leaving that, it was a weird. I was in this funk when we went to the mastermind together, where we met. I was in this weird space of like, kind of like, what do I do now? Because my whole
Yeah.
identity was I ran the countertop shop there, and so I leave that, and I just felt kind of like a fish out of water. So that, although wouldn't have wanted that to go back part time for a little bit, it actually was a nice closure for me. Help them get back. The guys that they brought back in are the new guys, doing great and all that. But by the time all that happened, I was at 35 rentals. It was covering the
Okay.
bills, but it was tight. And and also just running around doing everything myself. I hired an admin, so she actually worked for me at the countertop shop. Had some kids and left there, and then when I started on my own, we worked well together. I asked her to work part time. She works a couple days a week for me, and she takes all the phone calls. She organizes like, hey, this plumbing issue is going on. Should we call somebody, or if I'm going to go do something. So um, that was a huge help. I still handle the full load, I guess, but I'm not handling the brunt of it. Like she's kind of
Right.
my buffer. So
Right. Do you think, and I want to touch on the identity thing because I think that's a huge thing. Because I know I've gone through different periods of it. I went through it with basketball because basketball was my life for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. Like that's all I did every single day.
yeah,
So once I left college, it was like, who am I? What do I do? You just, like you said, feel like a fish out of water.
yeah,
And then I remember, it's funny you said, you need some closure going back to your 9 to 5 job because there are times where, like, I'll be fully transparent here. I still have nightmares. I'll wake up in a sweat because I have dreams about my boss calling me and saying, "Hey, we lost our salesman. We need you to come back here."
yeah,
And I wake up like, "Oh my gosh, this is
yeah,
like the worst thing ever." And
yeah,
listen, like similar situation to you. Like I didn't hate my job. I knew I wanted more and wanted to do my own thing.
yeah,
But yeah, I still get, like, my identity was wrapped up in that. And I think for me too, after I quit my job, and it probably took me about a year or so to kind of figure out exactly what I wanted to do, even though I was doing storage full time.
hmm
I was, I think I took on the mindset of I'm just going to do things at the sites at each site to kind of fill that void because I didn't know what I was doing. I
yeah,
didn't know what to do every day. So I'd weed whack. I'd paint bollards. And
yeah,
I'm like, this is great.
yeah,
I don't have a boss. I don't have a job. I can do whatever I want.
yep,
And like you brought up, I was doing basically $10 an hour tasks, but I was also in that transition of who am I? What should I do exactly? All that
right,
stuff. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
yeah. I think it's just part of that. Is for guys like us who transition out of there, it's part of that learning experience of, yeah, we want more, and sure, we have some rentals or maybe a lot, but it's like, yeah, who am I? It's reestablishing like your identity because I was so wrapped up, and then I even felt guilty, like okay, I have this time. I took my daughter on a hunting trip. We had a vacation just like 2 weeks before that. I'm like, I can't leave again, but then I'm like, why can't I? I'm not. It's not like I'm leaving employees behind. I mean,
Right.
I have one, but it was like I had to get through that too. Of just like I can do whatever I want as long as things are getting taken care of and I'm planning for it. So
Yeah. Yeah. So do you still have one employer? How many employees do you have now?
just one. Looking
Okay.
actually in that process now. I'm trying to get job description together and figure out probably like a maintenance slash project manager type guy that just handles all that stuff. So
Yeah.
that's my next step and next
That's
hire.
yeah, that's awesome. Cause I know I went through and still go through it to where I when I think our 9 to 5s kind of we're like almost no matter what, I don't want to say no matter what we do, but we probably had similar roles and positions. And it's like at your 9 to 5, if someone doesn't do a good job, it's like, just give it to me, I'll do it. And I'll
Yeah.
do it right.
Oh yeah.
And I'll get it done.
Yeah.
And you kind of bring that mindset over to your business until you get around these masterminds, go to these events where people are like, you should not be swinging a hammer. You
Yeah.
should not be cutting weeds. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
that's hampering your business. You can't grow that way.
Yep.
But I think there's a transition, right? And you've got to break that mold. I don't think it's possible to break out of a 9 to 5 unless you're already transitioning to do that.
Mhm.
But we kind of cut it cold turkey, right? You
Yeah.
had a few rentals, but you were running it, how you knew how to run it, which was give me the ball, I'll take it, and I'll
Yeah.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of tell us about that transition from then till now and where you think you're going
Yeah.
with your team, your business, all that.
Yeah. So now it's trying to, like you said. So I'll speak to masterminds because game changer in my life. That mastermind that we met each other at. I look back. I'm like, man, I really had no business being there. But at the same time, if I wouldn't have been there, my life I'd still be plucking around probably at at 35 or picking up a duplex here and there. So it expanded my mind to like so much more. Like this guy over here can do it. Like I can do it. You know, and that Tim Bratz talks about that borrowed belief, and to me, that's the biggest thing. Like it opens up to the possibilities, and also learning like, oh, this guy, he was in a similar position to me, and then stop weed whacking, stop working on plumbing stuff at the rentals and things like that. So now it's like, okay, I'm looking at it. This is my business. It's not a side job. It's not something I do for extra money. This is a business that I want to scale and have something to pass down to my kids or sell one day or whatever. But like create the lifestyle that I want, and so I'm all in on growing. And so since then, as of next Friday, I just got my closing date. I'll be at 65 doors, and then
Awesome.
I have 60, right around 70 self-storage units under contract that you passed on to me, and I appreciate that. So, and that was just talk about that for a second. That was one thing. So I know some guys in the real estate space are like, you should only concentrate on single family or multifamily or storage and I think there's wisdom in that. Like, I'm not trying to flip a house and do rentals and, build a self-storage right now. But once you're in it and you have some of that experience, self-storage really isn't a ton different than multifamily. I mean, it's real estate. The numbers got to work. I know it's different in management, but it's a real estate deal. So, and I'm learning a lot through the process, and I'm going to learn a lot more once I get it and I'm operating it. And so, but kind of like that first deal I did in Kent with multifamily. This is my first deal, so I gotta start somewhere. And I realize, I'm not going to know it all, and it's probably not the best deal on the planet. Like, but I got a plan. I'm gonna learn and probably be hitting you up for some tips. But I'm excited about it because I feel like storage is probably a little more passive than multifamily, and can't wait to learn about the automation and things like that. I mean, this is just a couple guys owned it, and it's let it go. When I drove out and saw it, there's trees growing up, the gravel's got weeds in it. They just haven't taken care of it, but it's a great 3-acre square lot that lots of potential to be done on it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want to hit on a couple of things there. And we've talked about masterminds, but I don't think people really realize the power of masterminds and being around people. And I think I've talked about this, but just reflecting, I've really noticed this over the past couple months. When I had my single family rentals, it was me and Bigger Pockets podcast.
Yep.
That's it. Yep. Like I didn't talk to anybody. I was like, whether I thought I knew enough or too much, or I was afraid to put myself out there. It was probably a combination of all that.
Yep.
But I just didn't. As soon as I somewhat found storage, I started reaching out to people. I joined masterminds, went to events, networking, all that stuff. And it's amazing. It just shot up like that.
Yeah.
Where single family rentals did not do that for it. It's amazing. And I'm looking at a mastermind right now that's pricey, and I'm probably going to join it. But I at this point, like 2 years ago, there's no chance I would have.
Right.
But I can reflect now and be like, oh, masterminds. While real estate has been the vehicle, the engine has been masterminds and the people that I meet there.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah, it's just and people are so afraid to spend the money, but it's an investment in yourself, and it's probably a better investment than any real estate you're gonna buy.
I had never. So last year, the mastermind we were at, a couple grand, $3,000. So I can't remember, $2 to $4 grand. Yep. And I had never spent that much. I could probably add up all the little conferences I've gone to, and it might have gotten to that. And that's another thing. I'm like, this is crazy. And it was 2.5 days long. And after, I'm like, this was worth 20,000. And
Yeah.
then, I was just at the same mastermind month or so ago, but you come, and I was in a completely different spot and learned a completely different set of things. There's a different group of people, and then the relationships you build. I mean, you and I have stayed in touch for that whole time. Ian, and the relationships you build at those things. It's priceless, and I've
Yep.
spent more in the last year and a half on masterminds than I've spent, you know, and then you hear of guys spending $50,000 a year or $30,000 a year, and I'm still like, that's insane. I'll go, spend 2 or 5 here, but
Right.
50, I don't know, but they're at a different level, and
Yep.
hopefully one day I'll be up there, and I'll be like, yeah, this was a no brainer.
Yep. Well, and it's all about, once you also, I don't want to say you get what you pay for, but in a way, right?
Yeah,
The more you're paying for a mastermind, you should be around other high level people that
right,
are I don't say at minimum at your level, but they're probably above your level,
right,
to where you're technically getting better product. You're in a better room. You're in a
right.
higher level room.
Yeah,
Um, I was gonna say, even though, so to kind of prove to people, the mastermind that we met at, it was 2 4 grand. I don't remember how much it was. Let's say it was 4 grand. And I'm not pounding my chest here at all, but I know what the situation with the storage facility, right? So we met.
yep,
A storage facility was passed to me as a lead, and I was like, it doesn't fit me. And I knew you somewhat lived nearby,
hmm,
and I mentioned it to you. And kudos to you, you just took action. Like, from what I know, you know nothing about storage.
yeah,
Like, you know what it is, but you
yeah,
don't know how to run it. Nothing. You
right.
just took action. I don't know. I don't even know if I can count more than 2 or 3 people that that have the balls that do that. That just take action. Like, screw it, I'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna figure it out.
yeah,
But my point is, a couple points. One, you took action, and two, at bare minimum, like if this deal is the worst deal in the world, you're gonna get $50,000 of equity in it. Bare
right.
minimum. My guess is it's probably in a year worth double. So you've taken that 4 grand from that mastermind and at minimum 10x that,
Yep,
at minimum,
yeah,
and probably 100x it,
yeah.
which is
But
like, that's how easy it is to look at that mastermind.
yeah, no, I've already looked back at some of those things. I'm like, if I wouldn't have gone there, I wouldn't have. You and Ian, like, there's all these little puzzle pieces that I've looked back that I can't put a dollar value on it, but I know it's way more than what I paid for the mastermind,
Yeah.
100%. And then the trajectory it sets you on, like you said, when you're meeting these different people and these networks, you just shot up. That's where, like, that was worth the price of the mastermind. Just my mindset, because it then you start. It's like your whole life starts getting better. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, well, I'm not gonna. I want to be better. I want to be healthier. I want to do
Yeah.
these things better. I want to be a better dad. Like, all these things. It's not just the business and real estate. That's a big part of it. But then everything else starts. The trajectory starts changing.
100%. Well, and I was going to ask you about this, so I'm glad you brought that up. What's your daily routine look like now? What it look like when you're working your 9 to 5? Because I
Yeah.
know you're a big dude. You're clearly in shape, even though the camera only showing a little bit of a bicep there. But yeah, tell us how that's changed, and the betterment that you've gotten from quitting
Yeah.
your job.
Well, one, it's opened up time to do it. Like, I feel like we all can make time, whether you're at a 9 to 5 or self-employed. You can find time if you want it.
Yep.
But I had a bunch of excuses at the 9 to 5 to where it was like, it's going to be a long day today. I got to get in the office early, and I went through some ups and downs of, health wise or working out and things like that. But just overall, it was more. I wasn't around inspiring. Didn't have
Yep.
those relationships that we were just talking about. That I was around inspiring things to want to be better. So I ran the place. So I was like, well, I'm not really, there's no other position I can get. So it was just kind of like status quo. But since then, I still get up early. I don't dread Mondays. I like
What?
going
Yeah,
to
right.
work.
When do you get up?
So I get up probably around 5. Like this
Okay.
morning, I got up at 5. 2 days a week, I got 2 buddies that's come over and we work out together. And then the other days, I'll do something. But there's been days where it was a short day. I get home at 2 and I'll throw on the rucksack and go walk 3 miles just because I can. And it's a
Yeah.
beautiful day out. So, but try and get up at 5. I love getting up, having my coffee, reading a little bit. I was listening to a podcast this morning on the way in and just threw the phone in my pocket, was listening to a podcast on mindset, was getting ready for this, getting some things organized. We were talking offline, got my office going here. That's why the shelves are a little bare, moving stuff over from home to just settle in. But it's been good. I kind of like it, just feel like coming in. And that might be one of those things that from the 9 to 5, it's tough for me. And I know some people are different to work from home.
Yep.
When the wife and the kids are there, kids are back in school now, but dog walking around upstairs. I was in the basement and just ADD, or I want to go start working on something else, and all of a sudden I'm distracted from looking at deals or things I should be doing. Trying to make this a business. So now I can have some focus time. Do I plan on being here 8 hours a day? No. But it's a place that all my files and things like that, I can come focus, do my stuff for a few hours here and there, and then do whatever else.
That's awesome. So you're waking up early, you're working out.
Yep.
Sounds like spending some time with the family, and then you're going into. So how long have you had this office? We talking a couple weeks, month?
Dude, this is the first week I've owned it about a month now. This is the first week I've actually started showing up here and got the computer, all that stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and I'm kind of asking too, because I am working from home, and like you said, the kids are for me. The kids are back at school, and it's easier now to do work. And I think obviously this is a lifestyle for you too, right? You're not trying to work 14 hours a day and grind it out and not see your family. It's about the time freedom. But I also believe that our kids are watching us as much as we want to tell them like, hey, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
Hey, dad's working 2 hours a day in his office and doing okay in life, but that's not normal. Like you didn't see all the grind up till
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, where do you think you'll fit in as far as you think you'll be at the office most of the day, 2 hours back home? How do you think that's going to look?
I figured there'll be different days. Probably the 2 days that my admin works with me, I'll probably be here, 4 hours or so, going over things, just planning. And then the days I'm here by myself, probably popping in, probably 2 hours in the morning, just kind of making sure everything's checked, and then probably just popping in as needed
Yeah.
here and there. So
Yeah. That's awesome.
the office has 4-car garage on the back. That like I have all my extra, closet doors and water heaters and all my extra stuff that I need to store for that, my trailers, things like that. But yeah, probably not. I don't plan on leaving when the kids leave for school and showing back up when they get home. I'll be doing. And I've noticed too, since kind of getting into this new routine, it kind of comes in waves. So there'll be weeks where I feel like, man, it's so busy, and I kind of get frustrated because we like that time, even if I don't have anything I necessarily want to go do. It's like, and then things kind of iron out, and then it's just slow and steady, kind of at my own pace thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I mean, that's what everyone's looking for, right? You've got the time freedom to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I know your bookshelf doesn't show us yet. I'm assuming you read. What's one big book that's top of your mind that's been transformative in your life?
Yeah, man, there's a lot. Um, So I set a goal this year to read 120 books.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
you definitely read.
way
You're gonna need more bookshelves.
way aggressive. But I, like in June, I'm like, it's going to be hard to hit this goal. But I don't know, 40 plus books. I might be over 50 now. I got a little
Wow.
app that tracks them, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to stop. I'm going to, even if I don't hit the 120, I want to try and get as many as I can. And then my goal already for next year is to go back and read the ones that really stuck out. But I still read. I know everybody talks about like As a Man, and actually that's one that's sitting on here. As Man Thinketh, and one that I just read. Actually, I'm gonna grab is I don't know a theme or something that's been hitting me recently is just mindset stuff. So this is Do the Impossible, Jason Drees. He's actually Beardy Brandon Turner from Bigger Pockets. He's his mentor, life coach.
Okay.
I don't know what you call him, but I picked up his book, and it's a great mindset book. So that's one that's just fresh in my mind. But yeah, like all the classics, I try and read, multiple times a year, and a lot of mindset stuff recently.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's well, and I think I think people that I run into that are entrepreneurs, and obviously like my network is real estate entrepreneurs, investors. We read mostly mindset stuff, right? I don't know. Trying to think, have I ever read like a book about? I've skimmed through a book about self storage, but I'm like,
Yeah.
this isn't
Right.
not doing it for me. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty much all mindset that I've read.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Habits, mindset, and you
yeah.
realize that's there's no one thing I've realized, like, I always thought, like, all right, if John's successful, like, what's that secret thing that John knows that these successful people know that I need to learn? And there isn't any. I realized
Right.
the secret is there's no secret. It's just probably action and mindset. Like,
Yep.
so having the right head and then taking action on those things and believing that you can succeed in it. And that's really the only thing that separates the average from people that, do things that quote unquote above average.
Yep. 100%. I'd answer that the same exact way. We're also somewhat similar too. I think we have
Yeah.
similar personalities.
Yeah.
But no, that's literally it's those three things, and it's amazing how simple. And it is easier to look back, right, and say,
Right.
"Oh yeah, well I just took action here. That's why that worked out."
Yeah.
It's easier to look back. It's harder to see, the road ahead. Even though you're like, "I want to go there," it's harder to see it until you've gone there, and then you can look back and be like, "Oh yeah, it's really these three simple things."
Yep.
Oh man, I was gonna hit on something I forgot now. Anyways, if it comes up, I'll ask. So last question, I think, last or second to last. What's your best attribute that you have in business and in your life that's gotten you to where you are now?
Yeah. I would say it's a combo of two things. Probably like just people skills. So I'm like, once I know someone, I'm really comfortable just chatting about whatever. Um, I'm not the guy at a networking event that just like works the room and goes around.
Yeah.
But like if I'm sitting next to you at the table, like I'll chat with you and feel fine chatting with you. I'm just not like the typical like sales guy that's like, hey, learns everybody's name and things like that. But just people skills. I mean, I feel like I could talk with anybody, even though I'm like not super outgoing. And then the action part, like knowing what I want, and even if I'm not, like we talked about that first deal, I was scared. Like, yeah, it looks ballsy looking back, and I mean it was at the time, but it was also like, all right, I learned enough. I got to that cliff of learned all the Bigger Pocket stuff, learned everything that I could know, and it was just like, now it's time to go do a deal. I did it, but I was scared. So now it's kind of interesting looking at the storage deal I'm doing now, because it's a little similar. Storage isn't my thing, and I can't say I know storage, but I'm like, I'm not scared, but I'm like, I know I have to take this step. It's like the experience. I have experience backing it up. I'm like, all right,
Yep.
I'm not scared of this deal, but I know I got to take this step to advance the ball and move forward. So action, just take wanting it so bad. Probably a little bit of being dumb and and then but taking that action and then just people skills.
Yeah. No, that's great. And that's and I remember now what I want to hit on. Um and this is related to all those. Nothing that you've done is, and I'm not picking like we've done, anyone's done, is brand new, right?
Right.
Someone's done it somewhere at some point. It's not like you're this super intelligent person. I mean, you just hit on it. You're probably like, I've probably done dumb things, and it's probably why things have worked out because I just took. I think
Right.
taking action is way more important than being a
Oh,
sharp person, right? Like, how many people have we met that are really like, how is this guy doing that? Like
yes.
I'm surprised that he can tie his shoes and
Yes.
walk to the mailbox in the morning,
Yes.
but yet he's a multi millionaire and can
Yeah.
do this. It's just everything's repeatable and everything's that you can learn anything.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of people way dumber than you and I that are way more successful. And
Yeah.
that's not knocking them. It's
No.
actually like it just shows anybody can do this. Like anybody can change their life. It's just believing. I got a buddy right now who said like he's frustrated with his job and he's made some comments to me. He's like, yeah, but what else am I going to do? It's like
Mhm.
I understand where he's coming from because I 2014, 15, I kind of felt that way. Like I was fine with my job. I'm like, but there's something more. But I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Like I'm I know this really well. This is my skill. I'm just, but then you start playing that out like, well, do I really want to do this for the next 20, 30 years? Like
Right.
then it starts feeling like a prison.
Yep.
And so it just something's got to be that catalyst that pushes you. And I know guys have talked about. I actually just heard that somewhere. It's like pain, the desire to do it more, or there's like three things that kind of push people. Might have been on the on you and Ian's webinar. I think maybe somebody mentioned it, but like three things that pain, the desire to do it, or something else like pushes you to just make a change.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really good point because yeah, there's not like you're not. Well, you could wake up one day and just be like, I hate where I'm at. You got to have some type of pain.
Yeah,
If you there's and I, we both know people that have golden handcuffs, and in a way, we probably both had them working our
yep,
9 to 5s, and that's
yep,
why we lasted more than a decade at them because
right.
they're kind of golden handcuffs, and you don't know until you're around other people that show you what else is out there. Like you don't know what else is out there. You've never we all grew up in the school system,
Yeah,
and work the
right.
school system teaches you to be an employee.
Yep,
Not knocking it, well, kind of knocking the school system,
yeah. I'm
but
not
that's what
gonna
it teaches you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the entrepreneurs, more than likely, and this is probably a whole nother episode, but more likely the entrepreneurs are probably the ones that aren't doing great in school
Mhm.
because they're bored and they're like, "Why am I learning calculus?
Yes.
I know I'm
Yeah.
not going to need this stuff,
Yep.
so I'm gonna do the bare minimum to pass this thing and, and not hurt my brain and learn all that
Yeah.
crap."
No,
Uh,
they teach you to do good on a test, and
yeah.
so much of it's non-relevant to life. And yeah, we could if you do that podcast, invite me back because I'd love to
Yeah.
go on some rants because I
Yeah,
see
I
it
could
now
probably
with my
invite like 100
daughters.
people, have a panel.
Yeah, my kids bring home. My son's in fourth grade, my daughter's in seventh. My oldest daughter's in she's a sophomore this year, and they bring this stuff home that I see, and I'm not knocking on none of it's like bad, but you're just like this is pointless, and I
Right.
don't want to like puke all that on them and get them like why do I need to do this? But you just see it like as a reflection, like man, they do teach a lot of dumb stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff that's
Yeah.
not going to make
Well,
you successful in life. Put it that way.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you'll have to teach me how to bite my tongue when my kids are younger than yours, so haven't experienced that too much yet. So yeah, you'll have to teach me. But man, I appreciate it. You dropped some awesome bombs today, and I'm sure anyone that's going to listen or listening is going to take away a ton of value. Definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to reach out, or do you have anything else going on, podcast or anything else going on that?
Not yet. So
Okay.
in this office, there was this room that downstairs that I'm creating I'm calling it a content room. So I'm going to actually put all the equipment in there, and I'll probably do some podcasts. I don't know if I'm going to start anything like official or consistent yet, but like maybe if guys are in town or something like that. But also gonna rent like the room out. So like I know some other people that are looking to do stuff, so all the equipment will be there. I'm doing the soundproofing, and like anybody can go and use it. But I'm probably most active on Instagram and Facebook at Jimmy Domer on Instagram. That's where I do a lot of, and that's another thing that it's not my, like, I don't love social media, but I realize it's a tool that, especially as entrepreneurs and working with investors and finding deals and just staying connected to people, seeing what you're doing, it's just a way, it's a necessary evil, I guess.
It is. Yeah. Well, and it's inspiring too, right? Like you don't post that much, and I'm forcing myself to, but I watch yours and I'm like, it's inspiring. It's motivating. Like I may have a bad day where it's like, I don't want to do another real estate deal. And I see what you're doing. I'm like, I'm pumped again. Like, I'm excited. And you don't know, that's the thing with social media. You don't know what impact you're having.
Right.
Because no one's going to tell you like, hey, appreciate your post. I just went and bought a deal because you did that post. Like you don't get that. So yeah. Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. Again, so at Jimmy Domer on Instagram, and you can find him on Facebook too. It's Jimmy, and it's Domer. And until next time, we appreciate listening.
Appreciate the call. Appreciate the invite.
Thanks for having you on. Thanks.
Thanks for following, subscribing, and listening to this episode of the Do More podcast hosted by John Farling. To learn more or ask questions, go to l4investing.com.